It was the first day of the new school term, and everything seemed quiet, almost too quiet. The hallways at Jefferson High buzzed with low chatter, the kind that floats around when kids are trying to figure out who's new, who's missing, and what's changed over the summer. But what nobody expected was that the biggest change wasn't a student. It was a teacher. A woman most of them had never seen before, walking with slow, purposeful steps into room 207, her arms holding a neat folder and a simple black handbag. She looked calm, soft-spoken, maybe even timid. But what no one knew was that this woman, Miss Bennett, wasn't here to play. And she certainly wasn't what she looked like. From the back row of the classroom, Tyrese Johnson leaned over to his friend Jamal and whispered, "She looks like she's scared of her own shadow." A few kids chuckled. That's what they always did when someone new showed up. Test them. Push buttons. Especially if they thought you were weak. Tyrese wasn't a bad kid, but like many others at Jefferson, he had a habit of playing tough to survive. And when you're used to teachers yelling or giving up or begging for control, someone quiet feels like an open target not miss. Bennett gently placed her folder on the desk and faced the class with a soft but steady gaze. "Good morning, everyone. My name is Ms. Bennett. I'll be your new homeroom teacher." Her voice was calm. No nervous fidgets, no stumbling, just calm. But kids didn't listen to tone. They listened to confidence. And because she didn't shout or bark commands, some of them assumed they could walk right over her dot by lunchtime. Whispers had already spread. "She's weird. She don't even raise her voice. She probably cried after class." What they didn't know, what nobody knew, was that Ms. Bennett had spent 10 years overseas, teaching in high-conflict areas. She'd dealt with more than just classroom tantrums. She knew discipline. She understood fear. And most importantly, she held a black belt in TAEKWONDO, something she hadn't even mentioned in her teacher bio. But the real story didn't begin in the classroom. It started the very next day in the parking lot. After school, Miss Bennett stayed late organizing her supplies. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the school grounds. As she stepped out toward her car, she noticed a group of students huddled near the edge of the lot. Among them, Tyrese, Jamal, and another boy named Ricky. They were laughing, nudging each other, tossing a basketball back and forth. But something about the energy felt off. And then she heard it. "Yo, check this out," Ricky muttered loud. Enough for her to hear. New teacher probably drives some beat-up grandma car. Tyrese turned and smirked. "Watch this." He walked over, bouncing the basketball deliberately, and stood in front of her car. Miss Bennett stopped walking. She said nothing, just looked at him. "You lost, miss?" he said, tilting his head in mock confusion. "This is staff parking. You sure you belong here?" There was laughter behind him. Miss Bennett glanced past him to the other boys, but kept her focus steady. "I belong here just fine," she said evenly. "I think the better question is, do you?" Tyrese stepped a little closer. "You threatening me, lady?" "No," she replied without blinking. "I'm giving you a chance to walk away with your pride." Jamal's laugh broke the tension. "Man, she tryna act tough now. Look at her." And just then, Ricky did something stupid. He threw the basketball. Not hard, not violently, but just enough for it to bump her shoulder. Time froze for half a second. Not because it hurt. It didn't. But because the moment the ball hit her, something shifted in her expression. Calm turned into focus. Still polite, but no longer passive. She took a step forward and picked up the ball, held it lightly, looked directly at Ricky. "You throw something at me again," she said, her voice a low hum, "and I will show you exactly how I earned my black belt." They laughed again, loud and exaggerated, not realizing she wasn't joking. That night, Tyrese told his older cousin about the incident. His cousin, Darnell, was in his early 20s and had a reputation in the neighborhood, mostly for starting fights and not finishing school. When Tyrese told him how the teacher Chip tried to talk tough, Darnell laughed and leaned back in his chair and said, "Bet she don't act so hard when someone steps up." The next morning, it wasn't just the three boys anymore. There were whispers that Darnell might show up after school, just to check something. Ms. Bennett noticed the shift in the air the moment she walked into her class. The usual side talk had a different rhythm. Nervous glances, quiet snickers. She could tell something was brewing, but she didn't say a word. Instead, she taught the lesson as if nothing was wrong. Her tone steady, her words sharp. In her mind, she wasn't worried. She had dealt with war zones, riots, even armed break-ins during her work abroad. A couple of teenagers with bruised egos? That wasn't going to rattle her, but what she didn't expect was how far they'd go to provoke her. After the final bell rang, the halls cleared slowly. Miss Bennett stayed back again, gathering her papers. As she walked toward the parking lot, the sun was just starting to drop behind the trees. And there he was, Darnell, leaning against a silver car, arms crossed, waiting. Tyrese, Jamal, and Ricky stood nearby, trying not to look nervous. "Bennett," Darnell called out, his voice smooth, fake polite. "Can I talk to you for a second?" She paused, turned slowly. "Sure," she said, "but I'll warn you, I don't waste my time." He chuckled. "We just want to clear the air, that's all. My little cousin said you got a smart mouth." Ms. Bennett smiled. "And I suppose you came to scare it out of me?" "Nah," he said, stepping closer. "I just came to see if you're really about that black belt life." And that's when it happened. He reached toward her, not violently, but like someone trying to test limits. A hand too close, a smirk too wide. But he didn't even finish the motion dot in one fluid movement. Ms. Bennett sidestepped, spun, and locked his wrist. In a hold so fast that even the boys didn't understand what just happened. Darnell's knees bent slightly, and for a moment, all the cockiness drained from his face. "I warned you," she said quietly. He yanked his hand back and stepped away, breathing hard. The boys were frozen, and she didn't wait. She turned, walked to her car, and drove off, like nothing had happened. But the news didn't stay quiet. By the next morning, the entire school had heard. Yo, she took down Darnell like he was nothing. She didn't even break a sweat. She got moves, man. But the story wasn't over, because someone recorded the incident. Not all of it, but enough. And that video started making rounds. First among the students, then on social media, and soon it reached people outside the school, people who didn't care about truth, who only saw a clip of a teacher putting hands on someone. No context, no background, no warning dot, and by the end of the week, Miss Bennett got a call from the school. Bored. They wanted a meeting not about her curriculum, not about her lesson plans, but about her behavior. And just like that, the story took a turn no one expected. The meeting was scheduled for Friday morning, just before first period. Ms. Bennett sat in the waiting area outside the principal's office, calm on the outside, but with a slow-burning tension under her skin. She had been in harder rooms with more hostile people, but something about this bothered her deeply. Not because she feared for her job. She had always known that speaking up or standing her ground came with risks. What bothered her was how quickly the truth had been twisted, and how fast the people in charge wanted to question her. Instead of the group that had cornered her in a school parking lot inside the office, Principal Harmon scrolled silently through the short clip on his tablet for the third time. It had no sound, no lead-up. Just 15 seconds of Ms. Bennett spinning and locking Darnell's wrist, followed by him pulling back looking stunned. To anyone who didn't know the full story, it looked aggressive. Too aggressive. Mr. Harmon knew the streets. He'd worked in rough districts before. But more than anything, he feared lawsuits. Reputation damage. Headlines, not truth. He called her in .ms. Bennett stepped into the room, shoulders back, voice even. "You wanted to see me, sir?" Mr. Harmon motioned toward the chair across from his desk. "Yes, please, have a seat." She did. Silence sat between them for a few moments before he tapped the screen and slid the tablet toward her. "You've seen this, I assume?" "I've heard about it," she said plainly. He nodded. "Ms. Bennett, I don't doubt that there's more to this than what's shown. But you must understand, this is a public school. Parents are involved. The district watches everything. This kind of physical encounter, regardless of who started, raises questions, concerns." Her eyes didn't waver. Would the same concerns apply if I hadn't been a woman? That made him pause. She didn't let the silence stretch too long. "Mr. Harmon," she continued, "I was approached after hours by a group of students and an adult who doesn't even belong on school grounds. They crowded me, mocked me, and one of them reached toward me in an intimidating way. I responded with a measured, nonviolent, and defensive move. I didn't hurt anyone. I didn't escalate it. But I wasn't going to just stand there and wait. To be cornered." He shifted in his seat. "I understand that. I do. But the problem is perception. That clip has been seen over 12,000 times in the last 48 hours. Parents are calling the office. Some are concerned. Others are saying, well, that your background wasn't fully disclosed." "My martial arts background?" "Yes. That's not a secret, Mr. Harmon. It's on the second page of my resume, right under Conflict Resolution Instructor for International Youth Programs." He sighed and leaned back. "It's a complicated situation. So let me simplify it," she said. "Am I being suspended?" He shook his head slowly. "No, not yet. But the board wants a written statement. A full one. Your account of what happened. They want it by Monday." She stood. "Then I'll give them one, with every detail they're trying to ignore." As she left the office, eyes followed her. Word had spread fast. Students in the hall slowed down near her door. Some peeked in. A few even nodded with subtle respect. Something new and unfamiliar at Jefferson High. She didn't react. She went right back to her lesson plan. But beneath the surface, things weren't calming down. That afternoon, Tyrese sat outside the cafeteria alone, staring at his phone. He'd seen the video over and over again. And for the first time, it didn't make him laugh. Something about it sat heavy in his chest. It wasn't just that Ms. Bennett had shut Darnell down. It was the look in her eyes. Calm, confident, but hurt. Not scared. Not angry. Hurt, like she'd been through worse. Like she expected this, and was just tired of it. Jamal came over and dropped into the seat next to him. "Yo, you still watching that?" Tyrese nodded. "You think she's going to get fired?" Tyrese shrugged. "I don't know, man. She kinda bad for real, though. Like, cool bad." Tyrese glanced at him, then looked back at the screen. "She's not just some lady, bro. She's been through things? How you know?" He hesitated. Ben said, "My mom used to be in the army." She had that same look. The kind people get when they've seen stuff, but don't talk about it. Meanwhile, outside the school walls, Ms. Bennett's name was starting to pop up in forums. Nothing major yet, just local chatter. But a post on a parent group caught traction. Is it true a teacher put hands on a student's family member? Is this what we want at Jefferson High? The replies were split. Some defended her, praising her calm and saying the boys were lucky she didn't react worse. Others wanted her gone. The kind of people who shout, protect our kids without asking what their kids actually did. That night, Miss Bennet sat in her apartment, typing slowly at her laptop. Her statement to the school board had to be written carefully, factual, calm, but honest. Every sentence mattered. One wrong word, and they could spin it. But as she typed, she remembered something else. Something she hadn't told anyone. The truth was, this wasn't the first time she'd been tested in a school. Years ago, in a different country, she'd faced a classroom full of students who had seen real violence, who carried trauma in their bones. They didn't listen at first. Some mocked her, others ignored her, but she hadn't given up. And when a group of teenage boys tried to intimidate her after school one evening, she stood firm, just like she did now. The difference? Back then, the principal backed her up. He understood where she came from. Here. She wasn't so sure. Her phone buzzed. A new email. Subject: Urgent parent concern. Please call ASAP. It was from the school. She stared at it for a few seconds, then closed the laptop. Monday was coming fast. And so was something she didn't see coming, something far bigger than a classroom conflict. Ms. Bennet didn't sleep much that weekend. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the parking lot replaying in slow motion. The moment Darnell stepped too close, the flash of surprise on the boys' faces, and that sharp silence right after. She hadn't meant to scare anyone. She hadn't even thought about the move. It was muscle memory. The same way someone might flinch when a fly buzzes too close. But it wasn't being seen as self-defense. It was being turned into something else. Something dangerous. By Monday morning, the mood at Jefferson High had shifted again, more quiet than usual. The laughter in the halls was subdued. Some students looked at Ms. Bennet with open curiosity, others with guarded suspicion. She could feel it before she even reached her classroom, eyes watching her, whispers trailing behind her. Still, she held her head high. She walked with purpose, not pride. She wasn't trying to prove anything. She was trying to teach. But now she was also defending her right to simply exist in this space. Inside the school office, Principal Harmon sat with the assistant superintendent, Mr. Ellis, a short man with round glasses and a tight expression. Mr. Ellis read Miss Bennet's written statement in silence. He didn't speak for a long time after finishing it, just tapped his fingers on the edge of the folder. "We'll need to schedule a formal review," he said at last. "There are still too many unanswered questions. We need the full version of that video, not just the short clip." Principal Harmon cleared his throat. "The boys say there's nothing else. Then they're hiding something." "Do you want me to pressure them?" Mr. Ellis looked up. "No. Let's try something quieter. Talk to the students who were there. Get a feel for what really happened. If we can establish a pattern, it might help." Tyrese was sitting in the library that afternoon when Miss Wilson, the school counselor, called him in. He didn't say much. At first, just kept shifting in his seat. His eyes kept moving to the window like he wanted to be anywhere else. "I just want to understand what happened," she said gently. "Not to get anyone in trouble. I just want the truth." Tyrese hesitated, then said, "It ain't like how the video makes it look." "How was it then?" He looked at her for a long time. Darnell stepped to her first, tried to test her. She didn't even hit him. Just shut it down. Fast. "Did you feel threatened by her?" Tyrese shook his head. "No, I was more scared for Darnell. That lady, she's not scared of nobody." And she didn't run. Most teachers yell or freeze. She didn't do either. She just handled it. Ms. Wilson made notes. "Do you think she should be in trouble for what happened?" He shrugged. "I think we were the ones who started it. She was just ready." Meanwhile, Miss Bennet continued her classes like nothing was wrong. She didn't bring up the incident. She didn't change her tone. She still greeted every student, still handed out assignments, still gave quiet praise when someone did well. But she knew the review was coming, and she knew not everyone wanted her to stay. One parent in particular, Mrs. Carver, was becoming increasingly vocal. She had 2 sons at Jefferson, both of whom had failed Miss Bennett's last quiz. But to her, it wasn't about grades. She claimed Miss Bennett had intimidated students, that she brought combat training into an educational environment. "This is a place for learning," she said in a message left with the office, "not for martial arts demonstrations." What she didn't mention was that her older son had once been suspended for shoving a substitute teacher, and her family had narrowly avoided expulsion after pushing back with lawyers. Mistake. Bennett knew none of this. She only saw the effects: more glances, more tension, more rumors floating like smoke. That week, something strange happened. One of her quieter students, a girl named Alana, stayed behind after class. She lingered by the desk, fidgeting with the straps of her backpack. "Yes, Alana?" Miss Bennett asked softly. "I saw what happened," she said. Her voice was small but clear. "That day in the parking lot, my older brother didn't want me to say anything, but I thought you should know." "What did you see?" "Everything," she replied. "You didn't do anything wrong. They were trying to scare you. Ricky even told Darnell to go full crazy on you. He said if you didn't flinch, he'd make you." Miss Bennett's heart slowed. "Did you tell anyone else this?" Alana shook her head. "They said if I talked, they'd mess with me too." Miss Bennett stood and walked around the desk. She crouched to meet her eyes. "Thank you for telling me." "You're very brave." Alana swallowed. "Are they going to fire you?" "I don't know," she said truthfully. "But I'm not afraid of what's true. And you shouldn't be either." That evening, another email arrived. It was from a district. "Lawyer." The subject line was cold. "Preliminary disciplinary inquiry. Pending further review." But it wasn't what worried Miss Bennett. It was what came right after. A private number called her phone. When she answered, no one spoke at first. Then a low voice said, "You should have just stayed quiet. Double quotes. Click. No ID. No message." Just those 6 words. She sat in the dark for a while, the phone still in her hand. Whatever this was, it wasn't just about a schoolyard scuffle anymore. Someone didn't just want her gone. They wanted her silent, and she wasn't about to let that happen.